Hey, friends and family, I am here to answer Baby's thread regarding entomology versus the other word, which I know, but I didn't remind myself. This is a good one. I'm jumping on it right away because this is something I have a lot of thoughts about and I've thought about a lot. Beatles versus the Stones. And just so you know, the background music that I'm listening to is the song Beatles and the Stones by House of Love. A fantastic song, which in some ways illustrates my thoughts about the Beatles and the Stones now. I see the Beatles and the Stones as a Siamese twin, a two-headed child. The Beatles representing the yin and the Stones the yang. You choose which one. I see them. Ultimately, I think that the world could not have a Beatles without a Stones. But historically, I hated the Stones at first, and for many years I've had problems with them. I've made peace with the Stones, and I've always liked them, but at first I hated them. And here's why. I come from a musical background and a musical family, so I was taught about appreciating music at a young age and being able to tell when people can play their instruments or not. The Beatles weren't great musicians, but they were definitely, as a group, better musicians than the Stones. You can argue with me all you want to. I ain't hearing it. Beatles, as a group, played better than the Stones in the early days. I remember the first time I heard Not Fade Away. That's the very first thing I heard by the Stones as a little boy. Now, first put it into perspective. As a small child, I was traumatized by the blues. We had a lot of problems in my family, in our neighborhood, with typical stuff. And the people who were the most abusive to me as a child were some of those shitty, stinking, fucking blues musicians, the ones who took advantage of me as a small boy, okay? Do you get it? Okay? So that alone traumatized me into just fucking hating the blues for the most part, even though I like it, but it traumatizes me. Then here come the Stones playing this blues, and they can't even fucking play it. It was like the first time I heard the Stones, I go, oh God, this is horrid. Absolutely horrid. I'm not holding back. I don't care if I offend anybody. You're not the Stones, okay? You fans that are... don't realize you don't need to be offended. You're not the Stones. I'm talking about the Stones. I thought the Stones sucked for the longest time. First songs that I heard by them that I started to like was early on Satisfaction, 19th Nervous Breakdown, Lady Jane. You can't deny those songs. But as a group, for a long time I had a problem with the Stones, okay? I could tell that these guys were not the kind of people I would want to be around. Whereas like George Harrison was a mentor for me. John Lennon was a mentor for me. I respected Ringo Starr. Paul McCartney I respected the least as a boy. Just something very intuitive about me and about him, that he didn't fool me. And you people that know more about McCartney know that behind the scenes he can be a very angry, ugly person to people. I love him though. But the Stones, as I got to know them better, my thought was, how is this happening besides the sex appeal? Why are they so popular? Why do people love them? And this is my opinion. The Stones as a unit were not a good band. As a collective, they were not good musicians. But their secret is they've always had an amazing rhythm section. This is my opinion, but I say it strongly. For the longest, the best musician in that band, not Keith Richard, not by a long shot, please. I can play Keith Richard and don't even want to play Keith Richard. Bill Wyman. Bust that bass like a motherfucker. He was the best musician. And then at first, Brian Jones. Brian Jones was definitely an amazing musician, but because of his personal problems, he was a fuck up. You know what I'm saying? And as fascinating as Brian Jones was as a person, he is the kind of person I can't stand to be around. Same with Mick Jagger. Keith Richard, too. These are the kind of people that at parties would just really piss me off and fuck stuff up. I don't want to be around them. It's in the music. It's party music. It's not that there's something wrong with it, but I'm telling you about, you wanted to know what I thought, I'm telling you. So the Beatles were party and something else. You know what I'm saying? I've learned from the Stones, but not nearly as much as I've learned from the Beatles. The Beatles transformed my life, okay? So you kind of get what I'm saying when I compare the two. I don't think we could have a Beatles without a Stones, but the Beatles have done more for me personally than the Stones. And you know, you don't have to be a saint for me to like you, but the kind of person you are does influence my response to you. I've always known that Mick Jagger was kind of a snake, you know. And when years ago I read the story about John Phillips, the leader of the Mamas and the Papas, um, basically standing by helplessly as he knows that Mick Jagger is in the next room having sex with his underage daughter, Mackenzie Phillips. Is that her name? Was it Michelle or Mackenzie? Turned my stomach, and I'll never forget that. Can I forgive Mick Jagger? Sure, because a million rock stars have done this. This is happening today. But I always knew this about his personality and his character, and it comes through in the music. So, in my opinion, the Stones have always been a lower form of rock music. It is party music. I don't know of much that the Stones individually or collectively have ever done with their fame and fortune to try to do something for the world. So this is where I'm at with the Stones. And you people that love the Stones, remember, don't take it personally. I'm talking about the band, not you. Are you concerned that maybe this reflects on you as a person? Well, maybe it does, but I'm not holding that against you. I'm just telling you what I think. So that's my quote. That's my answer. I could go on longer, but I've come full circle. I got a ton of Stones albums. You know what I'm saying? I do like the Rolling Stones, but the Beatles have been mentors for me. They have been people that have helped to shape my life in very good ways. I think if I had put the Stones in their place, I would not have the same effect on my life. And when I look around at people I know, people I work with, people I've grown up with, and I look at the effect of the Rolling Stones on their lives versus the Beatles, I'm sticking to what I'm saying. Stones haven't helped us do much of anything except to get laid more, do more drugs, party and be idiots more. Like I said, that's part of life. Having a good time is part of life. It's a good thing, but I think you can hear what I'm trying to say overall in the bigger picture. You know, have the who's added more to life in a positive way. I think the Beatles. I may be wrong.